Hello and welcome to the 27th Degree with Chris and Nancy. Bay Coast Bank is just right for all of your financial needs. Visit baycoast.bank or call 508-678-7641 to learn more. And Duncan Hearing Healthcare you can trust, with sites in Fall River, Dartmouth, Falmouth, and Centerville. For more information, visit their website, duncanhearing.com. We're very appreciative of our sponsors, and we thank them. And as always, you can support the 27th Degree with Chris and Nancy by subscribing to us on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform, and by following us on Facebook and Instagram. Also, please remember to leave a review. It's greatly appreciated. So we're doing our series in our office. We're taking a little break from the studio just for this next month, and we will be back in the studio, which does a great job. We're doing the Ask the Doc series, and we've done a few of these previously, and now we're going to talk about weight loss.
Yes. So I think it's especially during the summer, I think a lot of people are trying to lose weight with nice weather out there and everything else, and getting out there and just being more active in general. So when we start talking about weight loss, I think it's important to set realistic goals. So what would you define realistic goals as?
Well, I wouldn't look at the ideal weight. People look at that and they get really discouraged because, they look at that and say, oh my God, I have to lose 80 pounds or 100 pounds or 150 pounds.
Ideal weight tables.
And you're just, it just really, it makes it such that it's almost impossible to get to where you need to be.
Okay.
So if you're looking at it for, health-derived benefit, and you're diabetic or you have hypertension or, an issue such as that, particularly diabetes, 10% of your body mass will probably reverse many of the metabolic abnormalities that you have. If you have impaired fasting glucose, which is pre-diabetes, that will probably correct it. 10% for most patients is manageable. So, if you weigh 250 pounds, you're trying to lose 25 pounds, and you're not doing it overnight. You're doing it over a long period of time. A pound or two a week is, I think, a good goal. More than that is probably not healthy. And you should be able to fairly easily lose a pound a week.
Yeah, I think that's really true. And it doesn't, you're not under pressure, because sometimes if you put yourself under pressure, you end up doing the exact reverse. You get nervous and then you overeat or something.
And what you want to do also, is when you develop whatever goal you have, which is hopefully a realistic goal, it's about consistency, and if you have never really exercised, or you've never really modified your caloric intake, don't go crazy and now start off doing 2 hours of exercise in the gym and cutting your calories from 2,500 to 800 calories a day. You're going to feel terrible and you're going to quit after a week. And this is what happens after New Year's, is that there's that phenomena where people say, I'm going to change my life, and they go hog wild and they go crazy for about a week and then they give up. But if you do it in a more reasonable manner, you can do it long term. And this is all about long-term goals. So walking a little bit every day to start, and cutting the calories by a reasonable amount, or maybe just changing the choice of foods that you take in.
I know last year I had done a good job losing some significant weight.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just, I ended up doing it with one new change a week. I would start out and I'd be like, okay, I'm not gonna have sweets, this week, or that's just really limit it, right? The next week I added something else. I'm not going to eat bread, maybe, or the next week I'm not going to drink calories. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to have a straight Coke. You just sub with water. So those little changes, like Dr. Joncas was talking, they all add up.
So a lot of those little changes make a big difference. Just cutting soda out of your diet, you can really lose a notable amount over the course of a year. Now, it's not going to happen in a week. But, there's a lot of things that we do that we don't really think about, and it's fairly mindless. For example, snacking, we all enjoy it, but it really is not going to help you to lose weight. If you are going to snack, pick a healthy snack. If you're sitting on the couch watching TV, which we all do, we're not exercising all the time. Instead of taking the bag of chips, if you're going to have chips, which is not a great snack, by the way, take a small portion, put it in a bowl, and limit yourself to that. You're better off, of course, not to snack. And if you're going to snack, to have healthy snacks. But if you're going to have those things that we all like that are bad for you, just make sure you don't have the bag in front of you.
Yeah.
That's important.
Yeah. I think, and reintroduce yourself to vegetables
Right.
and
Right.
and fruit too, because they are satisfying weirdly after
Yeah.
not eating them for a while.
Yeah, you
You know?
don't, and you don't have to have massive quantities of anything. That's
Right.
the whole thing, you know. I mean, if you have a craving and you're going to have a little bit of a dessert of something of some sort, if you're out in a restaurant and you're splurging a little bit, you don't have to eat the whole thing. So, I mean, there's a
Really
lot
good
you
point.
can do to limit. First of all, you should be looking at the types of foods you're eating. Where none of us are perfect, there are going to be times that you have things that are probably not on the list of what you should be having. If that's the case, you have quantities that are reasonable.
You know what I did too that
Hmm.
that really didn't work to my benefit? Like I would like at 12 o'clock maybe like blow my diet over
Right.
lunch, right? Or my new lifestyle
Yeah.
habit. And then I would just like, oh, this day's at a loss. Forget it.
Yeah.
Like and just like you trash the whole day for that one like
Yeah,
lunch
there's no reason
mistake.
to do that. But I also wouldn't look at it as dieting because,
Right.
diets are short-term solutions, but we're looking for a long-term solution. So what you're really trying to do is not diet, but change your lifestyle and your eating habits to a way that is manageable, hopefully in the long haul.
And those little things make a big difference. My
Right.
neighbor started walking his dog
Yeah.
just every day. He lost 60 pounds.
Right.
Like just walking the dog. He didn't do anything else except he got out there and walked his dog every
Yeah,
day.
if you're really immobile, those things do help. But I will say that the majority of people are not going to exercise themselves to significant weight loss.
Mhm.
I mean, it's part of what you should be doing, but I think a lot of it is also appropriate food choices and also appropriate caloric intake. But exercise clearly important. But there are lots of people out there who exercise insanely and still can't lose the amount of weight that they need to because they make up for what they lose with increased caloric intake.
You know, you have weekend warriors too.
Hmm.
Can you tell us the drawback on
Well, I
that?
mean, there's a lot of injuries that can occur, of course. I mean, if you're not used to exercising, you don't want to jump right in and run a marathon. You're going to hurt yourself, and then you're going to be laid up, and you're going to be, you're going to feel badly and really give up. Just start slow with everything. Start slow with what you're doing with your diet. Start slow with what you're doing with exercise. If you haven't done really anything and you've been a couch potato, start off by just walking a little bit. That's
Yeah.
all. You don't have to do really high level aerobic exercise, particularly if you're not used to it. It may not even be safe.
Right.
So, get out and walk and do something like that. And of course, if you have symptoms that concern you, such as chest discomfort or breathing issues, you need to report to your physician and talk about that. Don't push through it because that's not necessarily safe.
Primacare is Southeastern New England's trusted leader in medical care. With offices in Fall River and surrounding communities, we're dedicated to your well-being. Our carefully selected team of more than 150 providers offers world-class primary and specialty medical care. Primacare doctors are supported by a skilled staff trained to deliver comprehensive radiology, imaging, and testing services. Primacare is large enough to take care of all your medical needs, but small enough to care for you personally. Primacare is by your side.
Now, you've just lost a significant amount of weight. You look nice, by the way.
Thank you.
Can you kind of tell us a little bit about what you did?
Well, I lost about 35 pounds, and I did this since January, and that was probably a little more rapid than probably what most people want to do. But if you think about it, it's about if you lose a pound or two a week, which is 8 pounds a month, and we're in August now, it's really not. It's about right, actually. So what I did is not for everyone. So you need to have an individualized plan. What worked for me was something called intermittent fasting, and I'm not recommending that to everyone. This worked for me. It was very easy for me to do it. It may be not easy for you to do. It may not even be safe for you to do. It's something to talk to your physician about. But I did intermittent fasting. It seemed to make sense to me. It's worked for me. I feel great. I have more energy. I feel so much better than I did before. And just in regards to the exercise issue, I have been exercising really since I was
Since I've known you.
probably, I would say in high school, right? And I never really stopped. Um, I've done this consistently for my whole life, and I kept gaining weight. So for me, it was really more the way I was eating, the choices I was making, and that was a big issue. And that's why I looked at doing this. And I had tried a lot of other things in the past that worked for a while, but were really unsustainable. I think this probably is sustainable. I hope I don't come back in a year and end up, where I was, and then I'll have egg on my face after doing this video. But for me, that was good. And I don't want to recommend that to everyone. I think you need to have an individualized plan that you work out, even potentially with your physician. But it did work well for me.
Nice. Can you talk a little bit about the drugs on the market that are so popular now for weight loss?
Right. So, I mean, there are a lot of drugs out there now. We have, Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro, and they work really well. But there's a couple of things I want to point out. One, there are side effects to these drugs. We don't know all the long-term side effects. There are certainly side effects we do know about that occur. And I'm not saying that it is not a good choice for many people. However, these drugs are almost impossible to get even for our diabetic patients. They're always out of them at the pharmacies because they can't be produced at the rate they need to be produced. And for the non-diabetics, it is almost impossible to get some of these newer injectable drugs. In the beginning, I would do prior auths and that. I've all but given up on that because they never go through. If you have diabetes, you can probably get the drug, and hopefully it'll be available in the pharmacy that you use. But if you're not diabetic, I have to say it is hard to get these drugs. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it is a challenge.
Sure. Have you seen them work well?
I think they do work well for some patients. Some patients have, symptoms that they don't like with them, nausea, constipation, and they stop the drugs. But the majority of patients do tolerate the drugs fine, and some patients lose a really good amount of weight. What I worry about is, what happens when they go off them, or is it another chronic medication that they end up on, just as we end up on, meds for heart failure and hypertension and other chronic illnesses. So I don't know what the end result with this is. This may end up being a drug that patients need to be on long-term, or at least intermittently long-term. I think that there's a lot of value to these drugs. They're just so hard to find, so hard to get covered. And I just don't know about the long-term side effects yet. They haven't been out that long.
No, right, right. So again, that 10% of weight loss that Dr. Joncas was talking about, to begin this conversation with, again, he used the example of 25 pounds if you weigh 250,
Right.
20 pounds if you weigh
Right.
200, 15 pounds if you weigh 150, But the impact that it has, mortality, 20 to 25% decrease in total mortality, 30 to 40% decrease in diabetic deaths, blood pressure, decrease in blood pressure, your lipids, your cholesterol goes down, reduce symptoms of angina, and better for diabetics, decrease 30 to 50% in fasting blood glucose. So those are all very, very significant impacts, positive impacts to your health, just for losing that 10%.
It makes a big difference. I mean, the caveat to that is patients are sometimes disappointed that their cholesterol doesn't improve as much as they would hope. The fall in total cholesterol is 10%. With a 10% weight loss, it's not tremendous. The triglycerides will probably go down the most. The LDL, or bad cholesterol, goes down about 15%. So don't be disappointed. You're not going to get your cholesterol to halve, most likely. But the other issues you see tremendous benefit: blood pressure, overall reduction in death, and diabetes, I would say, being the big ones.
Yeah. And you know what it does? It just creates momentum. Like, you're happy, like you said, and you feel great.
Yeah. You do.
So it's
Yeah,
like you want to continue. So
Right.
just taking those first couple of steps to lose that 10%,
Right.
you get motivated, you get
Right.
feel good, you want to keep it going, So I think that's important too.
Yeah, I would recommend, just to summarize things, have realistic goals. Don't go
Yeah.
in, full bore and try to go from 3,000 calories a day to 800. It's not safe. You're going to fail. If you haven't been exercising, start with walking. Develop a plan that's realistic. And if you need to talk to your physician about it to get some advice, please do. That's why we're here, and we can help you by giving advice directly or referring if need be. And there's some great weight loss
Yes.
clinics out there that can also be helpful.
And not even clinics. I mean, you refer to a nutritionalist,
Yep.
you know, and
Your
just to get you
nutritionist can be helpful.
someone to look at your
Sure.
diet and give you a couple
Right.
of nice substitutions and some guidance. It's
Just be
great.
realistic and go slow and realize the weight's going to come off slowly, probably a lot slower than you want. And it goes on quicker than it comes off, unfortunately.
Yes.
But the reality is if you want to do it in a reasonable way, that's what you do. You're not going to lose 100 pounds in 2 months. That's just not safe.
doing it like this, you probably have a better chance of it staying off
Right.
because you're changing your long time habits.
Right. It's about that's exactly right. You're trying to change long time habits. That's why I don't like the word diet because, to me, a diet is not something that's long term. It's a
Yeah.
short term solution or
Right.
fix. But
Yeah.
what you want to really do is have a lifestyle change. Change your way of eating, your relationship with food, and change your exercise
Yep.
pattern
Perfect.
and your activity pattern.
All right.
Great.
Awesome.
Well, thanks. That was really, helpful, I think. It
I
was
think so too.
a lot of good information in a short period of time. I want to thank everyone for listening to our show. And if you'd like to become a sponsor, please contact us at 617-775-3737. Special thanks to Primary Care, your trusted medical providers in Southeastern New England, and the BioSkills of Northeast for producing our show and available to produce your show by calling 774-301-8811. They do a great job. Bay Coast Bank, just right for all of your financial needs. Visit baycoast.bank or call 508-678-7641 to learn more. And finally, Duncan Hearing Healthcare. Hearing healthcare you can trust with sites in Fall River, Dartmouth, Falmouth, and Centerville. For more information, visit their website, duncanhearing.com. Thanks all, and have a great day.
Bye.